back with Bobby and JJ Radio. Our show today is entitled "What Happens to Your Mortgage When I Die." So this touched home for me a little bit because my wife's aunt actually, she actually was a teacher for East Central ISD. Her and her husband, they adopted 4 children, and in their late 40s, and my uncle was actually in his late 50s, and so it was kind of a tragic situation. She died abruptly, and I had to drive my uncle home to go and tell not only his adopted children, but also, talk to the family about my aunt being deceased. And he turned to me in the car and he said, "You're in real estate. What happens to my mortgage?" And I didn't know what to tell him. So this is why Bobby and JJ Radio is so important to me, because this show allows us to get with top-tier professionals and extract pertinent wisdom so we can send this information out to our family, friends, coworkers, past clients, and so we can have some answers for them. This is what the whole show is all about. Now, our first guest is Tim Banowsky. He's definitely a top-tier professional in the insurance industry. He's been doing this for over 20 years. He's a partner of Access Insurance, which is an insurance company here off 281. Tim, why does everyone need life insurance?
Well, there's a saying I like to use that if you love someone or owe someone, you need life insurance.
Sure.
You need life insurance because if something were to happen to you, your family would need the money to carry on, to pay the mortgage, to send the kids through college, those types of things. I think it's actually the most important insurance you can buy. People are so concerned with home and auto insurance because they want to protect their assets.
Right.
But quite honestly, the biggest asset for any family is going to be the breadwinner.
Sure.
If you don't have insurance on a car and you total it, you can always work and get another car. But
sure.
You die in the auto accident and you don't have life insurance, your family's stuck out in the cold.
Right.
And I've also seen it work several times where people did stay in their homes when the breadwinner died.
Right, with the right insurance.
Correct.
Tim, I know there's several different types of life insurance. Can you talk a little bit about the different type of life insurance there is?
Sure. The 2 basic types are whole life and term life. We are a big believer in term life, and there are several reasons for that. One, it's very difficult for a young couple to buy enough whole life because it's so much more expensive. We usually look at about 10 times your earnings. So if you're making $100,000, we would like to put at least $1 million on you. And that's actually very affordable if you do the term life. It may cost somebody who's 30 years old $1 million, maybe $30 a month. So it's fairly inexpensive. The whole life has a savings component with it, and that's what makes it a lot more expensive. It can be good for estate planning and things like that, but as far as income protection, we really like for people to have the term. And you purchase it for 10, 15, 25, 30 years. And it's just like a home or auto policy. You purchase it for that term, and at the end of that term, it expires.
So I've gotten several things in the mail personally. They're trying to sell me mortgage life insurance. Didn't know what it was, threw it away. Can you talk a little about that? What is mortgage life insurance?
Sure. Mortgage life insurance is really more of a marketing concept, in my opinion. If you get it when you first buy a mortgage, you may get things in the mail where there's no health questions. And they'll just sell the insurance to you without the health questions based on the fact that you just purchased a mortgage. But if you're healthy and you don't have any type of health issues, you're much better off coming to an independent agent like us and letting us shop the market for you and get you the best rate. And sometimes when they refer to mortgage insurance, they're talking about a decreasing term. So let's say your mortgage starts at $100,000 and it's for 30 years. The amount of the term insurance drops every year to coincide with the balance on your mortgage. But we believe that you ought to just have a policy that doesn't where the amount doesn't
depreciate
decrease.
with
Right.
the property.
Right.
With the property loan. Is
Correct.
what you're saying. I got you. Okay. And so we talked about term and whole. Is there a variable in between the two?
There is a variable. Variable life insurance is a type of whole life insurance policy, and it is normally tied to the stock market.
Okay.
And so you can earn more inside of your variable life insurance policy, but you can also lose more.
Sure.
There's a guaranteed amount that you're going to make, but you could also, in my opinion, you can get in trouble with them because if the market doesn't perform the way that they expected, you could end up having to increase the amount that you pay into it every year. And we're firm believers that you ought to split those two. If you want to invest, go ahead and find someone to invest with. And if you need insurance, come to an insurance agent and
Get
buy
some
term. Yep.
I got you. So all in all, the most beneficial for people and their families is term, in your opinion?
Yes.
Okay, great. And what kind of life insurance policy, what can they be used for?
Well, life insurance is, you can call it anything you want, but really what it is a death benefit.
Sure.
It's to take care of you when the breadwinner has passed away. So you could call it mortgage insurance. You could call it a death benefit for your kid's education. But really what we do is we like to see what your total need is going to be, and then we want to sell you the amount of insurance to cover all those needs.
We joke that my wife's probably she's worth more dead than alive at this point.
Oh, no, it's not a joke.
Oh, it's not a joke? Okay.
Hey, the spouses, we always like to put coverage on the spouse if she's a stay-at-home mom especially. I kid with my wife that the first thing I do if something happens to her is I go get a nanny. There's just no way that I could run my business and also take care of the kids. And so it's very important to have it on the spouse as well.
Do you have to qualify for life insurance?
Yes, you do have to qualify. Typically, what will happen is you'll fill out an application, and then they will do things like look at your driving record, and then they'll look at your health. They'll come
in
out.
trouble.
But they'll do
which one?
At the insurance company's expense, they'll do a short physical. They'll get medical records and make sure there's nothing in your background, and then they'll issue the policy based on what they find.
And who should someone name as their beneficiary to their policy?
Well, that's going to be up to the individual. The majority of the time, it's the spouse.
Sure.
And then you also want to contingent.
Sometimes it's not the spouse?
Sometimes it's not.
It's a girlfriend. That's a lot of responsibility for a girlfriend.
Yeah, so normally it'd be the spouse, but you also need a contingent beneficiary in case something happens to both of you at the same time. Some people like to put their kids. We don't like that to happen because an insurance company is not going to write $1 million check to a 15-year-old.
Right.
And so we like for them to consult an attorney and decide how that should be set up.
I know an attorney.
Yeah, luckily we have a couple in here today. So,
You want my card?
So how much life insurance should, so let's say someone like me, I'm 35 years old, how much life insurance should I have in place?
How many kids do you have?
One. That's all I can afford.
That we know
Do
of.
you want to send them to college and pay for it?
Sure. Or you know what? He's on his own. Let's pretend not.
Okay.
Let's assume that he's
a smart kid.
He's actually a smart kid. I'm banking on the fact he's going to get full paid, but you never know. But
But they don't get full paid scholarships for chess, do they?
Yeah, for water aerobics, he's really good. No,
water aerobics.
No. But let's just assume that I want to send him to college.
But you do want to send him to college. And does your wife work?
She does. She's a scientist, but so she doesn't make as much as I do.
Okay, but she depends on your income to help make ends meet.
For
correct?
sure. Yeah.
I would want to do 10 times your income and then also tack on some money for the college education.
Okay. And so you just kind of, when you talk about college education, you just want to do like a couple years of college education in there, or the full
It depends.
4?
I want to make sure that I am committed to my kids to send them to college and have them graduate without debt.
Sure.
Some people aren't. I mean, there's people that say, hey, I'm going to give my kids $10,000 and they're on their own after that.
Right.
So it just depends on what you plan on doing.
Sure. So it depends on how much you want. You have to really think about the future and what you want to do with your family, and then sit down with someone like yourself, and you actually tailor make different insurance policies for different families.
Yes, we would look at the how much you owe on your mortgage, other debt that you have that might need to be covered, and then what you want your family to do afterwards. For instance, I would not want my wife to go back to work.
Sure.
So I would build in some money there to make sure that she didn't have to go back to work.
Sure.
So if you guys are just tuning in, you're listening to Bobby and JJ Radio. We're sitting with Tim with Access Insurance, and we're going over different types of life insurance and who needs it and how much and what kind. So right now, what I'm wondering is, should someone purchase life insurance for a child, for their children?
That's a good question.
A great question.
A great question, yes. I think that you ought to have some life insurance on your children. We don't like to think about it, and some of us have been there, but sometimes we need to bury our kids, and you need to make sure that the money is there so that you can take care of that. I can't think of anything worse than if you had to go and borrow money at that point in your life to bury your child.
Sure.
But the second reason is that at some point in your life, everybody's going to become uninsured. Everybody's going to have some kind of a health problem where they can't get insurance. And so it's nice to put a little bit on the kids so that they do develop some type of heart issue or diabetes or anything like that, they at least have some coverage to take them forward.
So if you're saying that if you get something young enough, while your children are young enough, then they're kind of grandfathered in before having to take all of the different tests and stuff like that. Because that policy will continue as long as you pay
Correct.
for it.
And there's also, you can build in the ability for the child to buy additional life insurance without health questions.
Sure.
At certain points in their life, for instance, when they turn 18, when they get married, when they buy a house, the company will allow them to increase the coverage with no questions asked.
Sure. So Bobby got life insurance from this company called the General or something like that. I don't know what kind of company it is. How important is the reputation of the company?
I don't have life insurance. I actually plan on living forever, and so far it's working out.
He's immortal.
So far it's working out.
He is. Yeah.
Well, best time to buy it is before you die. So,
So you got a little bit more time. But how important is it that it's a reputable company? It's not a fly-by-night type of...
It's very important. When we do homes and autos, we make sure our companies are A+ rated. But if you think about a home or an auto policy, your commitment to the company and the company's commitment to you is really only 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
When you buy a life insurance policy, we'll typically sell life insurance policies from 20 to 30 years.
Sure.
And so we make sure all the companies that we put business with are A+ rated or better, and very stable companies, because the last thing you want is for a company to go out of business 10 years down the road,
Right.
and your policy being sold to some other company that has a horrible reputation or whatever.
Is that what happens? Does the policy just get transferred from one company to another usually in that case?
That is generally what happens, yes.
Have you seen that happen before?
I have seen it happen.
Really?
And the state oversees the sale of those policies and make sure they stay in force.
So, Tim, I did some research before you got here. I wanted to kind of look into life insurance and get as much information as I can before you get here. And everyone's trying to sell me insurance online. So what is the difference between shopping for life insurance online and actually going to an insurance agent such as yourself?
Well, when you shop for life insurance online, you're going to deal with somebody that is not going to know you personally.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to know necessarily what your expectations are. They're not going to know that you have 2 kids. We try, when we write life insurance, we're hoping that we have your home and your autos and everything else. And so when we see life events that change, you have a new kid, you buy a bigger house, those are the times that we would look at your entire account and make sure that you are still properly insured.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to get that if you buy from somebody online.
And so, are there certain type of insurances that come along with mortgages? Are they separate from the term that you're talking about?
There is a type of policy, and it is sold as a mortgage.
Just a separate
mortgage protection. They'll sell it as mortgage protection. It is a separate policy, and again, it's that decreasing term that starts at the value of the mortgage and then drops off.
Continues to drop down. I got you.
Right, but. In every case that I've seen, that type of policy is more expensive than just a straight 20 or 30-year term.
Sure. Can you give us maybe a story of someone that came in with some insurance because you've also come in, people come to you with their own insurance, and you've come and sat down with them, consulted them, and changed their policies. Tell me a story where you've kind of bettered the situation for a family.
Well, a friend of mine years ago came to me, and he had a whole life policy. I think it was about $50,000.
Sure.
He earned a good living. He had a wife and he had 2 kids. He was building a custom house, and we went to the movies one weekend, and we were talking about it, and he told me what he had, and I said, well, you probably ought to increase that.
Sure.
We ended up issuing him $1 million in term, and after that policy was issued, he canceled the whole life, and about a year later, he was out hunting with some friends, and his heart stopped.
Wow.
And they got it started, and he lived about another 6 months, and then he passed away.
Wow, I'm sorry.
If all he would have had was the $50,000, they would not have moved into the custom house that they were building, and her life would be totally different today.
Absolutely. That is a great story, and that's not scripted at all. I didn't even tell you I was going to ask you that. Well, Tim, you and your partner, Tim, you guys run a company called Access Insurance. I know that you have a little bit of a different take than most insurance companies. You have a website called 6 Quotes because you actually get multiple quotes on not only life, but you do it on term and on auto and home. And we've actually always used you guys for our clients. But is there anything else a little bit different about your company than you think other companies are?
As an independent agent, we represent a lot of different carriers.
Okay. A+
We make sure all of our companies are rated A+ or better. We actually have the ability to, at one time, quote 6 different companies. And so when you call us and you get a home quote, you call us and get an auto quote, we're actually running it through numerous carriers and getting actual premiums back.
So they're going to get the best quote out of that bunch. You're going to give them different options.
Yes.
Great. Well, if anyone's out there listening to the show and they want to get a hold of you, they can and get a free quote for any of these things that we're talking about. They can text the word 6 Quotes to 210-885-8319. Again, that's 210-885-8319. You also have your information as a show partner on BobbyandJJradio.com. We're going to be right back with Michael Bell. He's a attorney that's going to talk about wills, why you should have them, when you should upgrade them, and we'll be right back. Bobby and JJ Radio, don't move an inch.